members enjoy. One of the things our members enjoy is saving money. Who doesn't? And Van Gogh member perks is something that our members have at no additional cost as part of their membership. And some of you may have that now. And so it's something that we offer to all of our members as well. As a nonprofit association, we aim to be a trusted voice for the education community, in particular in 4 areas. Retirement planning, that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Healthy aging, so healthy active living at every age. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, especially combating ageism, is something that we're focused on. And then we also, because we own our own nonprofit group health insurance for retired members, for members who are 50 plus, we also have a lot of expertise in insurance. Our members receive a variety of publications, including our quarterly print and digital magazine, e-newsletters, and lots more. So this is my little plug for you to consider joining. If you're not already a member, you can simply go to rtoero.ca/join. Membership is free until you retire. And then after that, it's $73 a year for all of the programs and services. When thinking about why we would talk about retirement planning from a generational perspective, I was really reflecting on how our generation, the generation that we're part of, affects our mindset. And so I just took like our kind of newest generation to be starting to enter the workforce, and that's Gen Z, to think about what is their mindset and what are the things that have shaped them. So for Gen Z, for those youngest workers in our workplaces, they've always been able to Google the information they need. They've never had to look it up in an encyclopedia or card catalog. They've never needed a paper map or even your directions for how to get to your house or any place that they're going, because they have had access to GPS. They've never not had streaming services. Netflix has always, and other services have always been part of their lives. Kyoto has always been associated with the global climate crisis, and they've always watched TV shows on their phones. So those are just a few of the mindset factors of our youngest generation of workers. And if you think about your own generation, you might think of some things that have shaped your mindset. So, because it's a webinar, we can't see each other and talk to each other directly. I'm going to ask you a few different questions throughout the session to kind of engage you and understand where you're coming from. As well, you can use the chat or Q&A at any time to ask me a question, and I'm going to try to keep an eye on that. I will also have time at the end for questions. So please be assured that I will have time for your questions, and we'll be getting to those throughout. But right now I'd like to find out who's on this webinar. If you want to share in the chat your generation. So on the screen here, I have what are our typical definitions of these generations. And so I'm interested to see what generations we have reflected here. Yeah, and someone's commenting, the definitions sometimes extend a little bit differently, but generally, and if you're kind of on the cusp and you identify more with one generation than another, definitely indicate the generation that you feel really reflects you. Okay, so that's great. We've got Gen Y, Gen X, and at least one boomer, so that's great. I don't see any Gen Z, but maybe it's a little soon for them. So throughout this, you can be thinking about the information from your own generational perspective. At RTO, we believe that retirement planning is a lot like lifelong learning. It's important at any age. It's about the journey, not just the destination. And it's more fun and successful when done as part of a learning community. So I'm glad that we're all together this evening to do a little bit of thinking about retirement planning. If we were together in person, I would ask you this directly, but we're going to use the chat for this question. What's a word or phrase that comes to mind when you think about retirement? When I say the word retirement or retirement planning, what's coming to your mind first off? Someone's saying more time to travel, refocus and repurpose, time to pursue other interests, maybe too much time, a big life change, living arrangements. Okay, fantastic, fantastic. We ask this question of our members, RTOERO members who are still working. And I'm going to show you what their responses are. So here's a word cloud that shows what our members who are working think about retirement. And we ask this question of them every year to see what's on their mind and what their mindset is around retirement. So you can see the biggest word is freedom, time, relaxation, travel, choice, enjoy, lots and lots of positive associations. There's some less positive as well, stress, uncertainty. So the idea, I mean, that's understandable. I think it's natural to also feel some uncertainty at times of transition. And so that's what retirement planning is really all about. We believe it's about looking at where you are today, reflecting on where you want to be in the future, and creating the plan that will get you there. In other words, making the unpredictable as predictable as possible. And that, you can see that that definition really applies at any stage in your career that you're in. We know that folks have a lot of big questions about retirement, and we actually have a video series on our YouTube channel where some of our members reflect on some of those big questions that they have about retirement, like, what do I want to do in retirement? What insurance do I need? And here's the biggest one of all. Can I afford to retire? I hear this question all the time. I travel a lot, go to a lot of education conferences, meet people at those events, and also at retirement planning workshops in person. And it's something that I hear from folks, sort of across the generations. The question and the concern about how they're going to manage to afford retirement. So let's test our financial acumen when it comes to retirement. This is a true or false question. Do you think that this statement is correct or not? You need 70% of your pre-retirement income to retire comfortably. What do folks think? So I've got a true and a false. Another false. Another true. Okay, true. So folks you're pretty, oh, someone's saying false, you need more. Okay, okay. So we've got a pretty even split between those of you who think it's true and those who think it's false. So here's what we would say at RTOERO. We would say that it's mostly false. There might be some people for whom it's true, but the approach that we take and that we really talk about with people is creating a financial assessment based on you, rather than taking kind of a formula that's out there. There might be some folks for whom this 70% formula is useful, especially if it gets them kind of thinking and investigating and maybe doing some savings. But a formula like that doesn't take into account your earnings while you're working, your expected retirement income. Like, it doesn't give you insight into what those things might be, or your savings, other assets that you might have. And most important of all, it does not reflect your retirement lifestyle, the lifestyle that you wish to have in retirement. So instead of you know relying on a formula like this, we really encourage folks to develop a personalized plan that works for them and that works for the retirement style that best suits them. So when we talk to folks, we have, we hear what their plans are. And from that, we've synthesized a few typical retirement styles or retirement personalities. And I'm going to ask you to weigh in the chat on which one sort of resonates with you. Do you envision that you will be the philanthropist, the person who does a lot of volunteering and devotes time and energy to volunteerism and giving back? Do you want to be that globetrotter, taking all the trips that you haven't had time for while you're working? Or on the other hand, are you what we fondly call a workhorse? You love work and you're planning to keep doing it as long as possible, whether it's in your current career or a second career, maybe starting your own business or something like that. Are you the simplifier, someone who's really going to downsize and make life less complex? Or are you the bucket lister? You've been making a list of all the things you want to do over time. Or is there another style that not something that we've mentioned? And maybe I see someone has put in a few letters. Maybe it's a combination of several of those. Yeah, so I see a lot of you are listing kind of combinations of these personalities and these styles, and that totally makes sense. And relaxing, the relaxer, we need to maybe put that on the list as well. So you can just intuitively see that if you are someone who is dreaming of being a globetrotter or a bucket lister, your financial plan for retirement will be quite different than someone who's a simplifier. And so, really thinking about what is that, what is your retirement personality and what are your hopes and dreams and goals for retirement, that's really what's going to help you develop your own personalized plan. Often when we talk about retirement, we're talking about financial planning and saving money and how much money do you need to save. But I think you can see that we're leaning in as well to this idea of social planning, that money is important for sure, but it's a means to an end. It's what's going to help you do the things that are important to you. So we like to encourage you to think about retirement planning as social planning or life planning. your life is up to you, and you want to be the one in charge of kind of creating it and modeling it. I also want to reflect on the fact that life is full of transitions. We've all had many transitions in our lives. And think back to childhood when we moved from one grade to another, or from like one level, like when you went from middle school to high school, or high school to post-secondary, you know, what those transitions were like. Every time we changed jobs or moved to a different house, or you know, have a change in relationship status. It's important to reflect on those transitions that we've been through, to learn from them, to, you know, sort of what works well for us as individuals as we go through transition, and to remind ourselves that we've done it before and we can manage this new transition whenever it comes, however near or far it is. That we can use what we've learned in previous transitions to be successful in this new one. We like to get you thinking about, is your work what you do or who you are? And I would guess that for most of you, it's a little bit of both. Definitely, we spend a lot of time at work. If we're working full time, it does occupy a lot of waking hours. But you know, especially I think for those of us who work in the education sector, our work also helps to define who we are. And so when we think about retirement, there can be, you know, it's important to untangle our life at work from who we are as individuals. Think about what's important to us, what's enjoyable to us about work, and how we're going to, over time, put those elements in place in a different way once we get to retirement. Finally, we embrace the idea of growth mindset in education, and the same thing applies for us individually as we're thinking about our retirement plan. You know, we know that we continue to grow and learn and change throughout our whole lives. And so, you know, we can absolutely learn what we need to manage this transition. From our experience, your social plan for retirement should include 6 elements. And as I go through them, you're going to really see that these are elements that are important to you at every age and stage of your life, but will definitely help to set you up for success as you think about retirement. First is your health. We all want to have a healthy, active retirement. So that means that we need to be taking care of our health now, today. It's unlikely that we're going to be tremendously healthy if we haven't been attending to it in some way while we're in the years approaching retirement. We all know that we should be getting more physical activity, getting more fresh air, getting more sleep, eating more, you know, more vegetables. And we have lots of reasons why we maybe don't always adhere to those things that we know. We encourage you to focus on your own wellness. It's not selfishness, it's really essential, not just for today, but for the long term. Supportive relationships. We know that the biggest indicator of happiness and well-being in our life is having supportive relationships. So many of our relationships when we're working are connected with people we work with. But we want to be thinking about having a good balance of relationships outside of work as well, so that we have those networks that will take us throughout life. I've already touched on the importance of work in giving us meaning and even security, particularly financial security. So your social plan will help you, you know, by focusing on these areas, you can think about how you're going to build for financial security for sure, but also to provide meaning and fulfillment in your life in retirement. Community engagement and contribution. Again, we're very connected to the community in education, more so than in a lot of professions. And it gives us a sense of contribution. There's nothing that leaves a legacy quite like working in education. So those things usually are important to people who've chosen a career in education. And you want to think about how you will carry those elements into retirement. Now I'm going to test a little bit of your knowledge or your acumen about retirement. How many years on average do education sector workers, employees work before retirement? You know, again, on average, there are differences, but approximately how many years do you think folks work before they retire? So I'm seeing 25, 30, 28. Okay, someone's splitting the difference, 35, 27. So those of you on the call, you might think about your own 35 years. Yeah, definitely, you know, you may be reflecting on your own personal experience and doing some math. Yes, and someone has mentioned the 85 factor. So for those with an OTPP who are teachers pension plan members, definitely the 85 factor, which is your years of service plus age, will kind of give you a hint of what the average might be. All right, and then a second question, how many years on average should you expect to be retired? So all of us on this call have retirement in our future. When we get to retirement, what might we expect on average in terms of years of retirement? Okay, so I'm seeing like 25, 30, 20, 25 to 30, 25. Yeah, so again, we're going to 35. All right, we're going to see. So of course, this is an average and individuals are different, but I'm going to share some stats that come directly from the Ontario Teachers Pension Plan. So right now, the average age of retirement is 59. And people currently receiving an OTPP pension have on average contributed 26 years of service. And for people retiring in the near future, OTPP is estimating that on average they will have 32 years of receiving a pension. So the point I want you to see here is you will likely have more years in retirement than you will working. Your life will be one in which retirement will be longer than working. So Helen asked the question, does OTPP expect people to live to age 91 on average? And yes, that's the, you know, the what we've seen in recent generations is an incredible lengthening of people's longevity. I don't know if any of you have seen the documentary Your 100-Year Life, but basically the scientists are telling us that people living now who are in, you know, not yet retired can expect a life can anticipate a life expectancy of close to 100 years. So that's exciting news, but it also means that we need to really be thinking about how we plan for it. And often you hear retirement now referred to as the third act. And, I think we're familiar with the structure of a 3-act play, and everything good happens in the third act, everything good and exciting. So that's something to look forward to. But it's also a moment for you to reflect on, like, think back how much time you spent preparing for your career and how you did that. For most of us, we did, we spent years studying to get ready for our career. And so my question for you is how will we prepare for retirement, and how much time do we think it will take? And one of the comments about thank goodness for defined benefit pension. Absolutely. We're very fortunate in education to have that and to have that security. So thinking about how long we might live and how much time we might have in retirement, I have another true-false question for you. Happiness declines throughout life as you age. Is that true or false, do you think? Got a couple of people saying true. So now some false. Okay. So someone sort of reflecting on health problems, that in their own family. Yeah, so again, this is very much, going to depend from person to person, but there is research on this question from a population perspective, and that's what I'm going to share with you. So fortunately, this statement is false. This graph, called the U curve of happiness, is based on population science. And what it shows is that in childhood, on average, people are pretty happy. And then as we go into our 20s, 30s, and 40s, happiness dips. And kind of goes on a downward trajectory. But the good news is that then it comes back around, and you can see that happiness continues to increase throughout the rest of our lives. So contrary to some of the ageist stereotypes, and again, it's not true for every single person, but generally on a population level, our happiness increases as we age. So that is good news. So that means retirement really is the happiest time of our life. An activity, not for right now, but something I'm going to assign you a little homework, because I think you can all appreciate homework as teachers, is I'd like you to take a few minutes at some point, maybe in the next week, to ask yourself the question, to think about, reflect on, what's something that you're dreaming of doing when you retire, that you're really looking forward to, that you have not had the time or space in your life to do. And you think, oh, when I retire, I'm going to do that. And then think about how you can bring a little bit of that retirement dream, that retirement goal, into your life today. How can you start living some of that happy retirement lifestyle today, rather than putting it off for the future? Of course, if your dream is to travel around the world for a whole year without stopping, maybe you can't do that all right now, but is there a little piece of it that you can bring into your day-to-day life right now, and not wait? And then set like some milestones or a next step to actually make that a reality. And I'll just share my own personal reflection, because I talk about this all the time. I thought, oh, I should do it myself. So since I'm in communications, as you can imagine, writing is something that I do a lot of. I love creative writing. And I've always had in my mind, when I retire and I have lots of time, I'm going to write my great Canadian novel. And I don't have time to write a whole novel right now, but I have started in the last couple of years, gotten back into creative writing and writing short stories, because a short story is something that I can start and finish and in a reasonable amount of time. And so, that's just a little example from me personally of how I've taken my own advice on this one. I also want to reflect to you that when we're talking about retirement planning, there's an old paradigm that doesn't really fit anymore. That is, like, you work and then you retire and you stop working. The reality is that these days, it's much more likely that you're going to be retired-ish. Again, when we every year when we survey our RTOERO members who are still working about their plans for retirement, more than half of them say that they're planning to work full-time or part-time after, quote, retirement. So that means different things to different people. For some, they're planning to continue to teach, on an occasional basis. Others are planning to start a business, based on a hobby or a passion project. Some are going to do consulting. Some want to go and do a completely different kind of work. But the reality is, and especially as we look at how long we might live in retirement, and what our financial needs might be, quite frankly, it is probably going to be much more common that we will see a period in which people are retired-ish, where maybe they have stepped away from, a job or a career that is quite as demanding or full-time to something a little bit less. They may do kind of a transition where they step down gradually in terms of how much they work, or they move to something different, but are still working some or all of the time, but just in a different capacity. So, it's useful to keep that in mind so that we're not thinking of it just as a binary, you're either working or you're not. As I'm coming to the end of my comments, I did want to share some retirement planning tips for each generation, based on the experience that we've had at RTOERO and what we know works well. So for Gen Y, we don't have any Gen Zs today, but Gen Y, time is your asset. We believe it's never too early to start planning. One of the things that you might do, if you haven't already done so, is to find a financial advisor. We have a great article on our website about how to do that. If you're part of the Ontario Educational Credit Union, that's another great source to get you started. And this is a time where, if you haven't done so, starting to save for retirement. Of course, you may think, oh, I've got that covered through my contributions to my pension, but even a small additional amount can make a big difference over time. And time is what you've got. Moving on to Gen X. The motto for this generation is that knowledge is power. This is the time that we're, encouraging people to really start getting some information. There's been some research that only 12% of Gen Xers have done any sort of work to estimate their retirement financial needs. So, starting to review your financial information for retirement, starting to gather some information is a good first step. Saving money is important here as well, though often this stage of life you've got a lot of financial demands. So if you're paying for childcare and mortgages and things like that, you may feel that you don't have a lot left over. Here again, even small amounts can make a difference because you've got time on your side. Sorry, I just lost my cursor. There we go. And then finally, boomers. At this point, the boomer generation who have not already retired are getting closer to retirement. And for any folks in this group, I would say it's not too late. Definitely, if you're in this group and you haven't already done so, I would encourage you to attend a retirement planning workshop. And this is the stage to really prioritize your retirement needs and to accelerate your retirement savings. Previous periods of time may have been devoted to family and to those kinds of commitments. And there's definitely a school of thought that you can make up for, I won't say lost time, but maybe a late start by really having a focus on retirement planning at this stage. And it's also a good time to start building new social networks, join RTOERO, start sort of building those elements that you're going to be relying on in retirement. We get this question: when should you start planning for retirement? We always say it's never too early or too late. We definitely would encourage people to start planning for retirement 15 to 20 years before they think they are going to retire, or even sooner, even earlier. The reality, though, is what we see is that most folks don't really have retirement on their radar until 1 to 5 years before retirement. Wherever you are on the road to retirement, we have resources, materials, and supports for you to help you navigate. And I'm just going to share a quick video that encapsulates what we cover in our retirement planning workshops.
Retirement is a big deal, but planning for it doesn't have to be. It just means having the right financial advice to live happy, the courage to live healthy, and the inspiration to live the life you always wanted. And what do you know? You'll get tips for all that and more in an RTOERO Retirement Planning Workshop, a free workshop for Canadians who work in education just like you. So, up for retiring to something better? Let's plan.
So with that, I'm going to stop my screen share, and I am happy to answer any questions. What I will say is there was a comment about that as we live longer, there is a greater risk of dementia. And that's certainly true. We've been doing a lot of work with our members, sharing information about dementia, warning signs, and things that can be done. And all of the experts that we've had in to do webinars to share information, for sure, age is the biggest risk factor for dementia. But we also know that just generally good health and keeping focused on healthy active living is also somewhat protective. And obviously it varies from person to person. So I'm just going to have a look and see if there are any questions. So there's a question: does RTOERO have an opinion on reverse mortgages? That's a great question. We don't take an official position on it. It is something that we encourage members to have a financial plan and to make sure that they're as much as possible have financial security in retirement. There might be some folks for whom a reverse mortgage is appropriate, but it can also be it can also fall under the category of predatory lending practices. So this is where, going back to one of my points, having a financial advisor who you really trust and who's reputable and trustworthy and has integrity, is someone who can help guide you throughout your life in making financial decisions. There's quite a bit of information online about the financial side. So that's certainly true, and we try to help curate it. Helen, you mentioned that you find it difficult to or challenging to navigate the health insurance choices. There again, I will just say that attending one or more of our retirement planning workshops, we do go through insurance options as part of that workshop. Also on our website, we have a lot of resources related to insurance. So we explain some of the concepts, like what's the difference between group and individual insurance. We explain, what we have a comparison shopping checklist. So it's something that you can use. We encourage people to do comparison shopping, but we also know that you're not necessarily an insurance expert. And so we have a checklist of things to look for and things to ask for. So some of the resources on our website might be something that helps you learn more about the issue and the topic, and and feel more comfortable with the choices that you need to make. Robert is mentioning transitions happen during retirement as well, not just going into retirement. Serious illness, death of a spouse, for example. For sure, it's a really important point. Transitions continue to happen. There's no doubt about that. And so, again, going back to, your life planning, if you're following those, kind of 6 pillars for life planning that we find really useful, hopefully you're finding that will help you navigate transitions after retirement, as well as transitioning to retirement. The other thing I'll just mention there is we have a resource on our website called I will send it to with my notes from this presentation, but it's a list of, like, a checklist and a fillable PDF of important documents and information. So it's just a resource to help you make sure that you've documented kind of information that you may need to pass on to family members in retirement, in the case of a transition, like an illness or death or something like that. So, again, having those kinds of resources, it won't mean that you won't have those transitions, but it will hopefully mean that you're more prepared for it. Helen mentioned, if I just knew how healthy I'd be and how long, that would be great. Yes, wouldn't it just, if we had that crystal ball. And again, what we hear from our members, especially those who are, the seniors, is just how important health is. And that's one of the reasons why, as an organization, we are such strong advocates and speak to all levels of government across Canada about the importance of healthcare, and also specific training for all healthcare professionals when they're working with older adults. So that's one of the things that we're talking about as an organization all the time, and making sure that we're keeping all levels of government, keeping that as much front and center as possible. I'm just going to do a quick check to see if I've missed any questions, but I think I've covered most. Oh, okay. So Ingrid asks, should we sell our home if it has a mortgage on it before we retire? What is the likelihood that we would be able to buy a home after retirement? So again, that is, you heard my bio. I am not personally a financial planner. That's not mainly our business. RTOERO, we're not financial planners, though we do have a lot of information to help you with financial planning. That's where your own financial advisor, maybe accountant, or your credit union can be a resource to you. There are definitely people who go into retirement with a mortgage and are able to manage that. And there are others for whom, that kind of a situation might be a factor to prompt them to do some downsizing. I can also say I know lots of RTOERO members who have moved to another part of Canada. So they might live in the GTA, or an expensive area of Ontario, and in retirement they've got the flexibility and freedom to sell their property and choose somewhere else in Canada that is equally appealing to them, but maybe more affordable in terms of lifestyle. So, if those are factors that you think will be, featuring in your future, it's great to start think about them now and look at the options that are open to you. But there's generally, more options available to us. When we start to think about it, we can see that there's more than one way to approach the same issue. So Terry, any final thoughts or questions?
Thank you very much, Sylvia. I just want to say, when I heard you say the Vengo as a perk for a $73 membership, my wife in a previous life she had access to the Vengo perks. I will pretty much guarantee people you're going to use at least twice the value of that $73. It's a fabulous perk of membership to be taken advantage of.
Yeah, and Terry, Terry, if I could just say,
Yeah.
as I said, membership is free until retirement.
Yeah.
And our actively employed members also have access to Vengo. So at no cost.
How can I get my beak wet here?
There you go. It's you just join as a member
Hi.
and start
Oh my
saving
goodness.
money. Yeah,
Okay, I'm in.
there you go. And the money you save, you can put it towards your retirement.
Exactly. You talked a lot about the importance of health and wellness uh, leading up to retirement and in retirement. One's mindset, one's connectedness
Yeah.
and network while working. There has to be something into retirement to keep that social wellness up.
Yeah.
I think of my wife's aunt that continues to stay active as a retired teacher, and her involvement with retired teachers from her school. She stays
Yeah.
in that network in addition to her other interests in the community. So I want to emphasize to folks the availability of how you can join in various roles. I'm sure Sylvia would love to hear from
Mhm.
you if that's something that you'd like to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. Through our districts, you can be as involved, you can have as much, yeah, our districts are completely volunteer run. And the volunteers do an amazing job of
Yeah,
providing programs and services on
yeah,
behalf of and for the benefit of other members. And of
yeah,
course, not everyone wants to do that, but those who do are most welcome.
yeah. And and from what I've seen, they're extremely happy. I really want to thank you for sharing with us how important retirement planning, financial planning is. I've always realized that how important this is. And I think we can all safely recognize the government is not going to be there to take care of us. We have to play an active role in planning for our golden years, as they say. Um, I want to thank you very much, Sylvia, for your time with us this evening. I want to highlight our next webinar in our 6-part series sponsored by RTOERO, and that's October 19th, same time. Ocean Wise will be providing introductory climate change pedagogies. So we hope to see you on the 19th. Now, when folks were joining us, we were talking about maybe not everybody is a member with us tonight. Maybe some people think they're members. So what I'm going to encourage everyone to do is if they're not sure of their current membership status, you can easily find me on the STAO website, and I will check that out for you in advance of the next webinar. That's my commitment. If there's no other questions, I'm going to turn it over to Cindy to spin the magic wheel of destiny.
Okay. So, oh, hold on. I have a few active members that are on the call right now. So I have put their names onto this wheel of destiny, and I'm going to give it a spin. I'm going to share the screen. Okay, here we go.
Come on, big money, big money.
And we have Carol.
Carol, yay! Carol.
I will email Carol, but I'm just gonna stop sharing here. There we go. Now I just need clarification because I believe Carol was under the name Slipcats. Is that right? Now I've sent Slipcats a message. I haven't heard back yet, but if you are listening, can you just confirm that you are Carol, and your email so I can get in touch with you. You know what? If I don't hear from her, I'll do another spin and I'll contact the next person on the list. So all the members, I should have started with this. The members that are here got their name in a draw for $25 gift card to Indigo, and the names of all the people who have attended all the seminars get their names in a draw for a pair of earbuds or that is given
AirPods,
away
yeah.
by sorry, AirPods
Mhm.
AirPods by RTOERO. So I've made a note of everybody who attended today. We'll put their name in that basket for after the 7 seminars. So we are in shape. So thank you everybody who came. I'm going to just go ahead and stop recording here.
Okay.
Thanks
Thank you
so
very
much.
much.